Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be doing a little special Aquarius season question and answer session. Hope that you're having a wonderful afternoon out there. We're going to be talking astrology today. We're going to be talking books. We're going to be talking gardening. We're going to be talking weather, sports, whatever crosses your mind today. If you have a question for me today, please put it in the chat. Put all caps in front of it so I don't miss it. And then we'll break it down if it's about your own personal natal chart, about astrological technique, etc. All of those things are up for discussion today. I'm going to welcome a few friends in here before we get started. We have a few announcements after that. Welcome, my friends. Rachel Fletcher is here. What's up, Rachel? Nice to see you. Hello from Roanoke, Virginia. Rachel says, nice to see you, my friend. Looking forward to going on a journey with you soon with the Lord of the Rings. I'll talk about that in a second, but we've got a really exciting offering that begins within a little over a week. Candy Corn is here. What's up, Corinne? Nice to see you. Hi, Spencer and Star Folks. Nice to see you, Corinne. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing well over there in Connecticut, I think. Connecticut. Hannah Kuhari is here. Says, hey, my friend. Happy to see you this Friday. How you doing, Hannah? Nice to see you. Hannah is an excellent astrologer, professional makeup artist, and all around cool person. So thank you, Hannah, for being here today. Hope that you're doing well over there in Nebraska. Nebraska? Are you in Nebraska now? I keep getting confused as where you're joining us from. Nebraska, Missouri, or Minnesota. She is a traveler, so to speak. But nice to see you here, friend. Stephen the Jupiterian says, hey there, morning from San Francisco. Nice to see you, Stephen. Hope you're doing well over there on the West Coast and everything is treating you well, bud. Hannah says, yes, Omaha, the blue dot. There we go. I knew I had it in there somewhere. Sometimes these little factoids, they're floating around and we just have to unearth them, right? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, friends, for stopping in. Again, we're going to be just talking astrology today. I'm not sure why my banners are gray today. I guess maybe it's because everything's gray. It's raining outside. It's kind of a rainy Friday afternoon. Usually I've got this beautiful green, but apologize for that if you're color sensitive. So we are going to be diving in today. Before I do that, my good friend Winter is here. What's up, Winter? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. I believe Winter is joining us from New Jersey. All right, Stephen says, doing well, certified tarot reader and intuitive astrologer here. Well, Stephen, we're going to be helping to share your wisdom as well today. So if you have some comments today in the chat, if you're joining me today, all of you, if you have some observations, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat today. We're going to be co-creating this broadcast. All right, friends, so I do have a few announcements before we get started. So we are doing an Aquarius season Q&A today. What I will do today is I will take any questions, whether they're with your personal natal chart or with astrological technique, whether they're related to the astrology of the current moment. We are going to be breaking down sort of the astrology of the next week or so ahead as well at some point. So make sure you stick around for that. And just spending some time together, just having a little bit of discussion and having a good time. All right, friends, you can find me over at spencermichaud.com. Of course, I have a number of readings. If you want to work with me personally, you can go over to spencermichaud.com and click on the Book Now button. I have all sorts of different readings, a natal reading, a transit reading, a quarterly check-in, a specific one-question issue type of reading, a Big 3 mini reading, a tutoring session, and of course our integrative divination guided group studies. We've got one of those that's starting. We're going to be going on a year-long journey with the Lord of the Rings, so make sure you check that out. But all of that is over at spencermichaud.com. I would love to work with you if you need some guidance through the language of the stars, tarot, mythopoetics, mythology, symbolism, etc. Of course, I do have the guided group study, The Lord of the Rings, starting on February the 10th, which is, I believe, a week from Monday. We're going to be going on a year-long journey with this beautiful, beautiful book. This world. It's not just a book. It's an entire world that has been created. We're going to dive in over the course of a year. We're going to be meeting up every second and fourth Monday of the month for 12 months. We're going to be diving into all the myths, influences, and details that Tolkien has infused into this beautiful world. And what I'm hoping, friends, what I'm hoping for is that we are going to create our own fellowship. We're going to create our own uh, friendships. We're going to create our own ability to experience a year of our life together through the language of Tolkien, through the lessons of Tolkien, through the lessons of helping one another, like Frodo and Sam, being able to carry each other through the challenging life experiences that we have, whatever that is. They're all going to be different for us. But just to be able to connect our lived lives with these beautiful allegorical stories, uh, these beautiful friendships between hobbits, between different races of people in Middle Earth, like the elves, the dwarves, and the human beings, like, and figuring out how to uh, accentuate and also appreciate each other's differences. So I think it's going to be a really good time. I have a huge library over here of Tolkien works. I recently invested in his entire history of Middle Earth and a number of scholarly books that analyze Tolkien, and just excited to dive into this world. So I hope that you'll join us for this. Again, this is going to be every second and Monday of the month for 12 months. Uh, it is the, if you're struggling, I know people are a little bit worried about finances moving into 2025. If that is an issue for you, just please reach out to me and we'll figure something out. I would really love for you to be able to participate, whether it's through an extended payment plan, a sliding scale, or even if you have something that you feel like would be of value that you'd like to barter. I'm open to that as well. I just want to get more intelligent voices in the group. And of course, we have an amazing community here on the YouTube channel, so hopefully we'll be able to get some of you in the door. All right, friends, that starts on February the 10th. I also have a webinar that I'm doing with my beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews, which is called Dignity and Devotion. And we're going to be looking at the sun on Saturday, February the 8th. So these are lengthy webinars, sometimes 3 to 4 hours long, where we're going to be diving into all of the solar significations. We're going to be diving into how to analyze the sun within a natal chart. We're going to talk about myths associated with the sun. And then we're going to have Tanya is going to be breaking down how to create a magical practice, a ritual practice around the sun, how to craft an altar, how to pick an election, to be able to make your own solar materia. Like she makes all sorts of wonderful stuff over at Third Coast Mojo. And if you want to be able to learn how to do that yourself, this is a great way to engage with this material. So join us for that Saturday, February the 8th. That's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And speaking of Third Coast Mojo, Tanya has some really cool stuff right now. Since it is Aquarius season, and this is the Aquarius question and answer session, we have Saturn and Aquarius being featured. Tanya did a wonderful Saturn and Aquarius election back when Saturn was moving through that its home base, its home sign. And if you want to be able to take life from a larger vantage point, have a bigger picture, being able to contextualize all the different pieces of your life into a coherent whole, this is a great offering to engage with. So check that out over on Etsy, Third Coast Mojo. And then finally, a couple more announcements here. We do have a newsletter for you to sign up for. If you are interested in getting a 10% discount on any of the aforementioned things that I just mentioned, you can sign up for the newsletter and you'll be sent a discount code. And it'll help you stay up to date on classes that I have to offer, as well as new live streams, etc. And then finally, if you want to support the channel, while you're listening today, you can buy a super chat. In the chat today, there's a little $sign that you can support the channel. It helps buy all the equipment, all the software that goes into this, all the lights, microphones, etc. That help is really appreciated. If you want to go over to buymeacoffee.com, that's like a Patreon-like support system over there. That's a great way to support the channel as well. All right, those are our announcements. Thank you so much, friends. I'm going to check back in with the chat. We got some people making some good comments here. Susanna is here. What's up, Susanna? Moi, my friend. Moi, my Finnish friends. We've got a beautiful international group of friends that are stopping in today. Susanna is one of my good Finnish friends over there, a beautiful artist and musician, and a fellow Tolkien enthusiast who joined us for the Hobbit Book Club. It was a really amazing experience, and I really appreciate her insights and her Scandinavian perspective on all of it. So welcome today, Susanna. Karen Clark is here. What's up, Karen? Nice to see you. Hello from New Zealand. Thank you for staying up late with us today. It must be what time is it over there, Karen? Appreciate you stopping in, my friend. It's always beautiful to see people stopping in from whatever corner of the world. I believe you've been here a few times, but thank you for staying up with us, friend. I appreciate you. Steven says, now that Uranus is direct in Taurus, transformational year of the wood snake as well. Absolutely. We just had our Lunar New Year with the new moon in Aquarius. So a lot of changes, a new Chinese animal to guide us. Maybe we're going to be shedding our skin. Sometimes snakes' eyes cloud over a little bit before they shed their skin, so maybe it's a little difficult right now to see exactly where we might be going. But sometimes it becomes darkest before the dawn. So hopefully that's where we're heading, is some clarity moving forward. KP is here. What's up, KP? Says, hi, Spencer, all from Cleveland, Ohio, listening at work. Nice to see you, friend. I'm glad you're catching a live one here. It's always nice to see your beautiful face in the chat here, friend. Rachel says, I am so excited about the Lord of the Rings group study. The Hobbit deepened my love of Tolkien's world even more than I could have imagined. Oh, Rachel, appreciate you. Rachel is one of our resident Tolkien super fans. We have a couple in the group that are just super Tolkien fans, and it brings so much of their wisdom and love and joy for that seminal work to the group. And I'm just really looking forward to continuing that journey with you, Rachel. Just so appreciative of your support of not only the work that I do, but your contributions to the work and the grace that you bring to it. So we are going to go on an epic journey together, friends. So again, hope you'll join me and Rachel and whoever else is going to be participating. It's going to be super fun. We've been doing a lot of cooking with the Lord of the Rings too. We recently made Bilbo's seed cake, and we've been posting that in the Discord group. My beautiful partner Tanya made cram. I don't know if you've ever heard this. This is like a biscuit that the men of Dale would make as rations for long journeys, and it's kind of like those sesame sticks you'd get in a trail mix. It's pretty good. You got to chew it a little bit, but it's super fun. We've just been having a lot of fun with it, as well as really deepening our understanding of all the legendarium. Yes, Cleveland rocks, Stephen. Susanna says, the Hobbit journey has been so wonderful. Oh, thank you, Susanna. You've been an integral part of the group, my friend. So I'm so grateful that you've been able to join us for that. All right. Let's see. Karen says, Saturday morning in New Zealand, 7 a.m., preparing for work while I listen. Okay, so it's not super late, right? But yeah, appreciate you stopping in, starting the day with us, Karen, for sure. Lauren is here. What's up, Painted Turtle? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope everything's going well for you in Kansas, I believe. Kansas City? Kansas, I think. Cheers to you, friend, and always appreciate the wisdom that you bring to the broadcast. All right, friends. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. If you have questions about the guided group study, about the webinars that I'm offering, if you have questions about the astrology that we're going through here, feel free to put it in there. If you have questions about a transit you might be experiencing, an astrological technical question, I'm always happy to answer those types of things. While I'm waiting for questions in the chat, I'll just bring up the chart just so we can kind of get our bearings as to what we are experiencing right now. We just came off of a new moon in Aquarius 1 on the 29th. And as we are recording this, let's get it accurate here. Let's make it the clock. How about we do that? We've got Jupiter about to station direct. On the 4th, we have Venus here making this amazing conjunction with Neptune in the North Node, very close to the maximum degree of exaltation. So this is a really interesting kind of time frame where we are seeing the best of Venus, the ability to dissolve the boundaries and the barriers between us, to be able to have this shared sense of purpose and meaning, and maybe even sacrifice on some level. I've been doing a lot of research preparing for the Lord of the Rings book club guided group study, and I've been listening to a lot of amazing scholars, and one of the things that's really standing out to me is the relationship between Frodo and Sam. And the sacrifice and the loyalty that Sam showed throughout this entire process. And I think that it really does embody some of the best qualities of Venus and Pisces, especially the third decan of Pisces. You know, being able to begin an epic journey, a crusade, so if you will, to be able to go on this lengthy marathon to do something that requires an enormous amount of sacrifice, but also is for the good of the whole, the good of the collective, rather than the good of just one individual. And I think that that's really, really connecting with Venus and the Neptune quality within that as well. And as I'm talking about Sam and Frodo, one of my friends is calling me on the phone. That's sort of an embodiment of Sam and Frodo a little bit. One of my most loyal friends. His name's Mikhail. He's my friend over in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and he's just a great guy. And we've been friends since college. And I just think that the universe gives you little nods like that every once in a while. Little symbols like that, embodiments of these myths. We are creating through this mycelial network of meaning. And little fruiting bodies of mushrooms tend to crop up every once in a while. Speaking of mycelial networks, I don't have a link handy, but I did want to mention on the broadcast today that one of our, speaking of helping others, right? One of our amazing minds and authors of the last few years at least, Sophie Strand, is going through some real challenging times right now. She has chronic illness and a chronic disease that is very, very difficult to not only to cure, but to treat. And she's been going through some financial hardship. She recently her mother posted a GoFundMe for her to help with some of her medical bills. For those of you who aren't familiar with Sophie Strand, she wrote that beautiful book, The Flowering Wand, which we've done a previous guided group study around. And she's done some really amazing work beyond that. She wrote a book about Madonna, the not the singer, the biblical Madonna, and she just has been a real light and again an amazing writer and intellect. So if you go to GoFundMe and type in Sophie Strand, you can find her GoFundMe, and please don't hesitate to donate to her cause. We could use not only her brilliant mind, but just her light in the world for sure. All right. Candy Corn says, do you use mean or true node? I'm pretty sure that when I'm calculating this, I am using the true lunar node. And I'm not sure if that is necessarily a super conscious decision. I think it's just kind of the one that I've been, the true node is where the node actually is. The mean it takes an average of its position. I've been using the true node in my reading. So I hope that answers that question for you. Lauren says, I can't recommend Dignity and Devotion webinars enough. Excited about the Sun D&D available in your shop afterward, kind of like the Decan offerings, even if you can't attend live, correct? That's right, Lauren. Thank you. Yeah, we've been going through the 7 traditional planets and doing what's turned out to be about 4 hours each time. It was only intended to be about 2.5, but we've crammed so much information into it that we've been going about 4 hours. And yeah, we started at the bottom of the Chaldean order, and we did the moon, we did Mercury, and we've done Venus so far, and all of those are available in the shop. And we're going to be doing the Sun, and then Mars in a couple months, Jupiter, and Saturn. So that's going to unfold over the next few months. So I would love if you'd be able to join me for that, my friends. Thank you, Lauren, for helping to promote those there. They've been a labor of love. Tanya has been doing an excellent job partnering with me on that. And I think we've got a really nice offering coming up for you with the Sun. All right. So just the astrology of the moment. We're coming off the new moon in the first decan of Aquarius. We started that Lunar New Year, the wood snake. Yesterday, we had Uranus stationing direct with the Sun trining Jupiter retrograde. So a kind of a nice solar Jupiter relationship. We have the Sun hanging out now in the second decan of Aquarius, which is kind of one of the nice oasis points in Aquarius. Any second decan that is related to the sixes in the tarot, any second decan of a fixed sign, tends to be kind of nice energy. It is very fixed energy, but they tend to have really positive connotations. And the second decan of Aquarius talks a lot about communication between the centralized powers and the fringes of society, like commerce. It's a Mercury ruled decan. So we might be having a lot of conversations with people. I had this really excellent conversation with a friend in Great Britain, the UK, the other day. And we catch up usually like once a year or so, like over Zoom, and had a nice talk. And I'm going to be catching up with one of my friends in Australia over the course of the weekend, and I'm seeing that as a really a manifestation of the Sun in Aquarius to communication between worlds, liminal spaces on some level. With Uranus stationing direct too, we may be much more able to put some of the changes that we've been wanting to make into practice, especially when it comes to our financial security or correcting mistakes from the past. I think that's something else that we've been working through, is trying to figure out how do we correct some of the things that haven't worked out in the past? How do we evaluate and then make changes around it? KP says, what are your thoughts about a South Node transit over natal Pluto? Any positives? Well, KP, do you have an Aquarius South Node? I believe we might be of a similar age potentially, because I'm going to be going through that transit pretty soon here too. With I have a Aquarius South Node, and I think what I will say about South Node transits, the South Node is a processor. It is, and I mean that like a digester. You know, it's something where we're taking experiences potentially from our past that we haven't quite digested, and we have to kind of work through them. We have to let the stomach juices, the stomach acids, dissolve it so that we can take the nutrients from it and then expel the rest that doesn't work for us anymore. The Hellenistic astrologers would think of the South Node as a place of decrease. So I guess one thing I will say about Pluto on our natal South Nodes is that we may be bringing up things from our past that we've repressed, which is a Pluto signification in my opinion. Pluto was the ruler of everything underground, Hades, right? And what Pluto does, though, is it tends to bring things up, like a volcano, like a purgative. So there may be things that are coming up that that will need to be dealt with and transmuted, transformed, etc. So like, for example, if there's something in your past, KP says my South Node is in Virgo in the 10th house. You're having a nodal return soon. Interesting. Okay. So you have over the natal Pluto. Sorry, excuse me. I mixed them up. I was thinking about transiting Pluto coming across my natal South Node, but now I've got that picture in my brain better. The moon is in Pisces today, so we have to maybe pay extra special attention to the details today. All right, so South Node transit over the natal Pluto. I mean, similar types of experiences, right? But when the South Node is transiting over your natal Pluto, I think that you may be having to let go of some of the fears associated with Pluto. Oftentimes, Pluto will bring up things that we're afraid of, things that we don't necessarily want to deal with, or things that looked scary when we were younger, but then we will need to work through those challenges. The good news about a South Node transit over a planet that can be difficult is that the South Node tends to reduce the planet. So let's say that you have Pluto in Virgo 3, right, which is what I'm gathering here. Virgo 3 is really about fear of getting old, fear of aging, fear of not being able to pass on a legacy, like Pluto in this decan, right? There's a lot of legacy issues. Being able to have enough resources into your old age, the fear of entropy, of not being able to keep things in order. And with the South Node moving across Pluto, this might be something where you start to come to peace with some of those issues. Maybe there's something where you are coming to terms with the fact that you aren't going to necessarily be able to do everything that you want to do, okay? But you won't feel as much anxiety about it, if that makes sense. Virgo has a tendency, this is spoken from a Virgo stellium, we have a tendency to be anxious about the future. And I attribute that to its northern hemisphere placement, Virgo, with the transition between summer and fall, where we have this abundance that we've grown over the course of the summer. And now we have the hard work of figuring out how do we preserve it, because we know that winter is coming. We know that there's no more growth that's not going to happen necessarily. This is how do we store it? How do we preserve all of the good fruits and vegetables, or things that we've learned, or things that we've done, so that we can keep it together and not completely go without during the leaner times. Now, sometimes this is true when we age as well. How do we preserve our energy, right? Our energy as we age. The simple fact of, I think, aging is that it's not that we don't have any energy. It's just that it fluctuates. It changes. We have a body that is decaying. I mean, that is the reality of our physical forms. Our physical forms are starting to atrophy, or we are subject to the forces of entropy. And entropy is basically just atoms scattering and becoming less organized. That doesn't mean that our spiritual energy needs to wane. Our spiritual energy might be increasing, right? Our ability to have faith in the things that we can't see might be increasing. Our ability to come to terms with our limitations might be increasing, because we're growing into our Saturnine selves, right? Saturn being associated with longevity and old age, but also endings. So when we come to terms with our limits, we can be more focused with our energy. So I think that the positive part about the South Node transit over Pluto is that you may start to come to terms with what is or is not possible as we age, right? In KP, we're roughly in the same age group. You know, we're beginning of middle age, I guess you could say, right? And I think that sometimes we come to terms with the fact that there's parts of our youth that we're not going to be able to reclaim. And there are some dreams that we have to release. And I think that South Node on Pluto is going to help us to come to acceptance. And I would also say the North Node is going to increase our faith in that which we cannot see. This to me is a North Node Pluto, or North Node Pisces type of signification, is how do we increase our awareness of the enchanted world? And this is one of the things I'm really excited about with, like, the Lord of the Rings, is re-enchanting our worlds so that we're not just inundated with the grind, the mundane. Because sometimes when we look at the world outside right now, we see things like climate crisis. We see political upheaval. We see the news just is grinding away with, increasing chaos and horrors. And how do we come back into alignment with that which is eternal rather than that which is transitory, right? So Virgo really helps us to understand the transitory physical reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a really important part of being alive. But when we balance that out with our faith in what we cannot see, the mycelial network that connects us all, that helps us to come to a place of inner peace. And to me, that's the benefit. More of an inner peace rather than anxiety. So I hope that was helpful for you. KP says, yes, anxiety about the future, spot on. Yeah, I mean, to be able to take action, even without understanding exactly how it's going to turn out, that's the essence of Piscean sacrifice. Taking an action that you may not even be able to see within your lifetime, but having faith that that action is going to benefit future generations. That's really important, you know, and I think that that's something that we need to get more in touch with, because really one of the great diseases of society right now is that we take actions, many people, not everybody, not all the time, but a lot of the time, society has been promoting taking individual action to support the self. And we have leadership that is modeling that right now. Individual action that supports the self rather than the masses. And that's very difficult when we don't have those other types of examples to lean on. That's why we lean on things like astrology. We lean on things like our spirituality, because we can't always find those things in politicians, no matter which side of the political fence that you fall upon. It's really all the same thing when you come down to it on some level. All right. Susanna says, yes, me too, KP. Anxiety, right? The Pluto and Virgos coming to terms with their inner anxieties. Yeah, let it go. Let it just process those old anxieties. I would say the other thing that you might experience with that, both KP and Susanna. KP, your name's Karen, right? I believe. I always get confused. I don't want to call you the wrong name, but I think your name's Karen. I think that anxiety was placed for a reason when you were younger. Like, I'm a Pluto Libra, okay? Like, I'm a second decan Pluto Libra. And Pluto Libra, yeah, Karen. Okay, Karen, good. Pluto Libra 2, second decan of Libra, that one's all about oaths and contracts, marriages, agreements, your word. I have a fear of marriage on some level. And part of that is because my parents got married and divorced like 5 times between the two of them. Like, to me, those oaths were broken all the time. And it was painful, and it had a huge impact on my life, right? And I'm in a committed partnership, you know, life partner, but we're not married. So this is kind of and maybe I'm being vulnerable here. Maybe that's a hang up I need to get over. But this might be something where we're examining our Pluto wounds. So I guess my question, I'll throw it back to you, both Karen and Susanna. What in your origin story or your early adulthood or wherever these buttons were put in, where did you have a fear or an anxiety about either growing old, a fear of the future, a fear of disorganization, a fear of chaos, right? Where did that come in? You know, and how have you worked through that within your adulthood? So Susanna had the same question as KP. Okay. Yeah, Karen says that we have 27 degrees Virgo Pluto. A lessening of anxiety would be wonderful. Good. Lauren says Sag rising is going through a lot of family and home issues with that Pisces lineup. Perhaps the South Node in the 10th, there's a little bit of pressure off how you show up in the world in order to tie up some of the loose ends in family and home. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did she say 10th house with that? Yeah, 10th house. Okay, good catch. Yeah, so it could be with home and family, right? Yeah, Lauren's gone on top of it today. So, yeah, maybe this is about examining your origin story, your parents, the way that you support yourself, your foundations, the actual home that you live in, right? That Lauren is pointing out. Like, sometimes the 4th house is our living situation. And if we have anxiety about creating or maintaining a home of some level, I wonder, Karen, with that Pluto in Virgo in the 4th house, Do you have like any like neat freak tendencies? Like, do you literally have to keep the house in order to keep everything working to your satisfaction? I'm curious about that too. Maybe there's something to release around that. Maybe a little bit of disorder might be healthy, right? All right. Steven says, I have Sun North Node conjunct at 11 degrees Pisces, Sag rising here as well. Nice, Steven. Uh, so the Sun North Node conjunct in Pisces. So you're going to be having a nodal return pretty soon here, bud. So let me know if there's anything I can help clarify with that. Casey's here. What's up, Casey? It says, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing about yourself. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate that. And thank you for being here, friend. Appreciate you, you know, sharing your wisdom. And I really appreciate that kind of feedback on the channel, too. It is hard to be vulnerable, especially in social media where you're putting yourself out there for other people. But I feel like vulnerability is something that we share with one another. We don't expect people to be vulnerable with us if we can't be vulnerable with them. So expressing our own vulnerabilities helps to create trust. So that's kind of how I do my astrological practice and all my consulting is we share our vulnerabilities so that we trust one another, so it's not, so the power dynamic doesn't become uneven. To me, it's a very egalitarian way of doing this work is, we empathize with one another through that. So thanks for that, friend. And hope you're doing well. And let me know if you have something I can clarify for you. Stephen has Pluto and Virgo in the 10th as well. Okay, so this might be a little bit different for you, Stephen, with having the 10th house Pluto South Node. It's going to probably express less in your 4th of home and family, more in your 10th of your public self, your public praxis. Maybe less power dynamics between you and authority figures with the South Node there too. I don't know if that's been a challenge for you in your life, Stephen, but sometimes when we have Pluto in the 10th house, we can sometimes either fear authority figures or we have negative experiences with authority figures, or we can have these power dynamics with them. So hopefully that will be alleviated with the South Node there. Candy Corn, Corinne, says, as a Sag rising, I can confirm that home and family is a focus. Yeah, so this is going to be one of those where you're going through it and getting. So, friends, I'm if I'm not mistaken here, like if you're Sag rising, wouldn't your 4th house then be Pisces, right? So were we kind of analyzing things slightly differently for Karen? This is the most Piscean broadcast ever here, friends. I think I got a little turned around. Let's see here. I'm just looking back through the chat to see where we might have gotten our wires crossed here. Well, anyway, like if we look at the Sag rising chart, if we just click it around a few hours, Sag rising via whole signs puts this huge Pisces stellium in the 4th house. So you Sagittarius risings might be dealing with this increase of having to surrender to family issues, surrender to a feeling of safety and security, or even seeing some of that dissolve potentially with how watery it is. It might have been something that was very elusive when you were growing up. So yeah, with this huge stellium here with Saturn, the moon, Venus, Neptune, and the North Node there, it's just lighting up that area of your chart. And this is an angular placement for everyone right now who has Sagittarius rising or mutable risings, having that stellium in an angular house. Let's see. Casey says, I'm usually working during your lives, but with the new moon in Aquarius, it brought up an old injury, forced me to be still as a Scorpio rising. Punched a nerve in my back, and it's hard to move and breathe. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that, Casey. I hope that you're healing up well today, friend. Um, but I'm really grateful that you chose to spend your convalescing hours with us here today. You know, it's an honor, my friend. But heal up soon, bud. And I hope everything's going well with you. It says I look forward to what Saturn trine Mars will show me. Yeah, we can break that down a little bit. I'll try to break that down for the. I believe that's coming in the next few weeks here as well. Um, is it trying your natal Mars, or is it going to be trining just in the sky here with it's because it's going to be coming into trine just transiting in a few days here with Mars retrograding in the trine with Saturn. Let's see, man. I am jumping all over the chat today. Sorry for being so non-linear today, friends. Susanna says my Pluto's in the ninth house, so you might be going through that in your relationship to your faith, your spirituality, foreign places, being able to have less anxiety about travel. So maybe if you've always wanted to travel to a long distance destination, maybe the south node on your Pluto there might be helping to lessen the anxiety about doing so. I know that as a fellow Cancerian, Susanna, long distance travel it's not really in my wheelhouse. It can be fun, but there's a lot that has to go into it for preparation to feel comfortable and things of that nature. So I wonder if you have some similar feelings. Karen says, I always have fears that job and relationship will fall apart. I will be alone and struggling when I get old. Hard to just trust solidly that things will be okay. Yeah, Karen, you said you were a Sag rising, right? So that's why I was getting my wires crossed and confused, because we sort of did a delineation for Pluto on the south node in the fourth house. And Lauren said something that kind of got me on a fourth house tick. Yeah, Lauren, you were saying perhaps the south node in the 10th, there's a bit of pressure of how you show up. Sag rising. Oh, okay, that's where I got confused. So Lauren was pointing out that Pisces stellium in the fourth house is bringing up a lot of issues. And then the south node in the 10th is talking more about how you go through your career stuff. Okay, I just didn't read that clearly, so I apologize for that, friends. But yes, with south node hanging out in the 10th house, fears around showing up publicly, fears around challenges with authority figures, like I was talking about with Stephen, that could be something that maybe lessens over the course of this transit. All right, let's see. Stephen says, yes, authority figures have always been challenging. I am an authority figure, and other teachers have not seen me as a colleague. Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen, that's got to be painful. So I'm planning to create an alternative school. Okay, so that's interesting, Stephen. Like, so if you have challenges with the particular house in question, the 10th house being like dealing with an authority figure that could be oppressive or something like that, taking that similar authoritative energy and transmuting it and transforming it into something like an alternative school with alternative authority structures, that's a really interesting manifestation of Pluto there. So that's a good share, friend. Karen says 10th house Virgo, Pisces, 4th house Pisces for Sag rising. Good. Okay. Yeah. I just got my wires crossed when I was reading Lauren's comment. So again, apologize for that. Oh, let's see. Lauren's talking about color therapy. Tell me more about color therapy, Lauren. Candy Corn says, it's hard to focus today, a dreary, sleepy day. You know what's happening today, Corinne, as we do this? It is a rainy, dreary day in Michigan as well. But Venus is applying to Neptune and the North Node. So, like the forces of like confusion are very strong with that aspect. It's not necessarily bad. It can bring about a beautiful, like, transcendent feeling. But Venus, Neptune, North Node, Saturn, Moon, Pisces is not the ideal stack up for super 100% accurate details. So I feel like we're all sort of a little bit of a victim on that today. So hopefully, what we will do is the essence of what we're trying to share with one another will come through, even if sometimes we're going to be fudging a few details today. So I hope that that's the care and love that we feel for each other today. Hopefully that will come through any of these delineations, even if we're kind of not necessarily Virgoing out today. Karen says, ditto on authority issues for me too. I'm also a Sun square Uranus though. Yeah, that's so double whammy for that, right? But yeah, really interesting to see that Pluto is manifesting as fear associated with authority figures in the 10th house for all of our Sag rising friends. And and not unwarranted with Pluto in the 10th house, that can bring confrontations with really powerful authority figures and powerful, like dark power, like manipulative power. So from probably having real life experiences with authority figures, and this could be through not just through your work, but this could be through your parents too. The 10th house was related to the mother in Hellenistic astrology. So it could be a little bit of a scary mom issue too, that may be transmitting that into adulthood, into having scary challenges with professional contacts. So that's something maybe to think about psychologically. Casey says, just the transit trine between Saturn and Mars from the 5th house to the 9th house. My natal Mars is in Leo, so I'm sure this is a reset for how I show up in the world and career possibly. Okay, so I need to pay special attention to the details here. So Casey, let's go back over to Scorpio rising. So this is a Scorpio rising chart, random one, so that we can get an idea of where the transiting planets are going to be. So Casey is saying 5th house Saturn, okay, transiting 5th house Saturn, and this whole stack up, and then transiting retrograde Mars. We're going to have a trine from that, and I believe I have this in my notes. I had this in my notes for February. I'm looking up the exact date for this. The Saturn Mars trine is going to be the 9th, the same day as Mercury Cazimi. Okay, so this is going to be, so here's an interesting little tidbit for you, Casey. You're going to get a Mercury Cazimi in your 4th house, the same day that Mars and Saturn are trining across your 5th and your 9th house. Okay, so we talk about Mars in Leo, so he has Mars in the 10th. Now that Mercury Cazimi is going to be in opposition to that Mars in the 10th. So I wonder, Casey, if some realization might be coming about your home and family life, your domestic or living situation, and specifically a situation that you might be feeling frustrated with that you want to detach from. Because the Mercury Cazimi is going to be happening in the 3rd decan of Aquarius, where we are dealing with leaving behind a situation that has become untenable, but potentially having to revisit it temporarily to unravel the karmic knot that, like Austin Coppock describes in 36 Faces. So this could also, if we just take the context of everything that's happening, we're going to, there's a 5th house stack up of related to either personal creativity, children, creative process, romantic love, and then maybe a trine between that and Mars in the 9th house could be talking about our belief systems, reviewing our relationship with spirituality, our relationship with orthodox religious systems, things of that nature. And that could be something that's you're putting out into the ether here. So let me know if there's anything like that that's been coming down the pike there for you. The injury part is interesting, though, especially because you're Scorpio rising, Casey. That oftentimes what we will see is the ruler of the 1st house, the body, when the ruler of the 1st house is in a challenging position or dignity, that's when we have our injuries, or we don't feel as much of ourself as we would normally feel, right? So Mars doesn't really get in much worse shape than being retrograde and in its fall in Cancer. So the good news is that it's temporary. Mars is going to be stationing direct on February the 23rd, I believe, at 17 degrees of Cancer. So if like, you're dealing with this nerve issue in your back, yeah, I would expect that you'd probably start to get hopefully relief sooner than this. Okay. And resting is good for all this kind of, I'm not a medical astrologer either, so I'll give you that disclaimer that this is not medical advice. But I would imagine you might start feeling a little bit better, especially when Mars stations direct around February the 23rd. All right, let's see. KP is confirming Sag rising with Pluto at 27 degrees in the 10th house. Okay, good. You got Pluto right on my natal Mars, Karen. I have Mars at about 28 degrees of Virgo. So that's interesting. Let's see. Susanna says, it's really peculiar. I really don't care so much about long distance travel. This is in relationship to Susanna having Pluto in the 9th house, for context. But I really see profound dreams about traveling all the time. I mean, many times a week. That is fascinating. That's another interesting manifestation of the 9th house, our dreams. It's the joy of the sun. And sometimes we have this experience of the light of the mind. We've been talking about this upcoming in our solar webinar that we're going to be experiencing. We've got this light of the mind experience, this clarity. Sometimes we get that clarity through the dream world, through connection to a liminal space, the 9th house, which is where we see the sun taking its joy in the thema mundi, the natal chart of the world. We're going to be experiencing trying to find meaning through casting light onto something. So the sun illuminates. That light of the mind that they talk about, that Vedius Valens talks about, it illuminates things. And so we're illuminating the liminal spaces that we travel through. And a liminal space is the in-between spaces. And one of the most in-between spaces that we experience as human beings is the liminal space of sleep and dream. So I think that's pretty cool manifestation there as well. Okay, let's see. Oh my goodness, so many good comments here. I'm kind of going back and forth because sometimes people will answer a question much later, and then I have to kind of go back and see where I'm at. So I apologize if I miss one here. Candy Corn says, Venus and Neptune are squaring my ascendant and Mars at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. Okay. How has that been working out for you? What is, I would imagine that Mars squaring all of those Piscean planets has probably been a little bit challenging. I find that especially with squares with Neptune, okay, so you have a Mars-Neptune square right now, I find that just feel real tired when there's Neptune aspects happening, especially squares. Neptune to me is a dissolver, right? Neptune is a solvent. So think of Neptune, and this is one of the reasons I think modern theosophical astrology sort of shoehorned Neptune as a modern ruler of Pisces, because it does have at least some similarities, I think, to the season that Pisces is related to, and that season being the transition and the thawing of winter into spring, where everything starts to dissolve into mush, and it is this fertile soup that helps to bring very life-giving water to the next season, the next spring season, so that those seeds have fertile ground to grow within. But when it's doing it, everything is just one big blob, right? I really liked the way that Robert Schmidt described the outer planets, and he described Neptune in relationship to the Hermetic principle of the one mind and the one thing. And the one mind was like consciousness itself, and the one thing was like undifferentiated matter, okay, that the one mind would work upon to create form within the world. So if you think about Neptune, he would describe Neptune as the one thing. He described Uranus as the one mind. You think of Neptune as the one thing. Its job is kind of dissolving. He made the argument in a really great talk where Neptune is like the absence of consciousness. It's just like everything dissolving back into undifferentiated mass. And that's sort of how I feel when I have a Neptune transit, especially if it's a difficult one, is that I'm just being dissolved into this mass of just body parts, like, splayed on the couch or whatever it is. So I hope that you're able to navigate that gracefully, friend. Okay. Lauren says, in color therapy, in the above comment on the 4th, a bit of energetic remediation for Sag risings with a Pisces stacked up. Oh, nice. What colors would you recommend for specific challenges there, Lauren? I'm curious. I really feel sensitive to color. I always wear green on Fridays because it's related to Venus, and Friday is Venus's day. I'm really sensitive to the color red. I don't. Mars is my malefic out of sect, and I just get too fired up if I wear red. I even on Tuesdays I don't wear straight red. I wear like a burgundy that's sort of like a muted red. But I'm curious if people feel this too. Like this, depending on the dignity of planets in their chart, is there just colors that they just can't wear? I actually can't really wear black either. I always kind of wear a navy version. And I'm not sure what that is. I think it's probably because I'm a Cancer. And this isn't to say that if you're a Cancer, you can't wear black. Like, I know that our good friend Susanna here is a Cancer, but she's a Capricorn rising, so she connects with that color. Capricorn is a sign of Saturn, and black is the color for Saturn. But as a Cancerian or as a Leo rising, someone who's very solar, the opposite of those two signs, Leo and Cancer, is Saturn. So for me, wearing black, it feels like, it's the absence of my light. I can't like shine my light as well as I would like to in that color. So it's just kind of interesting psychologically, and color can be really, really interesting with how it can change our mood. Corinne says, I appreciate my community. I appreciate you, Corinne. I'm glad that you're joining us here today, friend. I know there's been a lot. There's been a lot going on, friends. There's been a lot in the news. There's just been a lot of things happening. Some of it's scary. A lot of it's scary. And I think just taking time to share joy with one another, to commiserate with one another, that was my goal for today, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. All right, let's see. Steven says, on March 1st, my solar return, I will be 55 this year. I've been teaching for over 20 years in many capacities, but never had my own classroom. Well, maybe you'll be getting your own classroom now, Steven. That would be pretty awesome if you're able to make it happen. Karen says, I have natal Pluto and natal South Node in Virgo, the 3rd house, Cancer rising, having anxiety about emails with new colleagues. Okay, so now we are diving into a different territory, 3rd house, right? 3rd house related to communications, short distance journeys, our immediate environment and our friendships, but also kind of our casual acquaintances that we have that are extensions of our family, like siblings, like neighbors, colleagues that we work with can also be represented by that. One other thing to meditate on, Karen, that might be good grist for the mill, is the 3rd house is also the joy of the moon, and it is related to the goddess. And the way that the ancients would contextualize the 3rd house is they would look at it as intuitive spiritual wisdom that comes from inside of you rather than from an externalized orthodox religious system. So maybe with Saturn or Pluto there, maybe there's a fear of your own intuition, a fear of your own voice, a fear of the wisdom that arises within you. And maybe that South Node going over that place, maybe telling you to trust your own wisdom, trust your own intuition. And maybe this is a good way to contextualize your communication with others. Once you start trusting your own inner wisdom, there'll be less anxiety about saying the wrong thing to somebody, because you won't necessarily feel like you have to run everything by them, or that you make a mistake because you're not following some orthodox rule or something like that. Your intuition is going to guide you towards saying the right thing to someone when you start trusting it. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, so many good comments that you guys are awesome today. Yeah, a lot of discussion. I love it. Keep it coming. Do me a huge favor, friends. Like, I'm going to come back to the chat here in a second, but let's take a little stretch. And if you could do me a favor and like the video today, that's the best way to support, the easiest way to support the channel. And subscribe if you haven't. And if you're not on the email list, please sign up for that too. That's a great way to get a foot in the door for a reading if you want a 10% discount. And it just helps keep you up to date with everything that we're doing here today, different live streams. I've been kind of sending out reminders of when we go live, and I try not to over email, but maybe once or twice a week you'll get an email. So thank you for that. Remember, just I'm going to keep talking about it today, but we've got Dignity and Devotion, the Sun, starting Saturday, February the 8th, which is a webinar about the sun and all of its significations magically and astrologically. And then we have our guided group study starting on February the 10th, which is Monday, February the 10th, the Lord of the Rings. We're going to be starting a year-long journey. We're going to be twice a month going on a year-long journey with the Lord of the Rings. There's a link in the chat here today. If you want more information, there's a huge frequently asked questions. There's all information about payment plans if you need it. If you need a sliding scale, or even if so far as if you have something to offer to barter, if you really want to participate and you're having financial difficulties, I don't want that to be a barrier. I really would love to create the type of fellowship that we create here in our live stream chats, and have that become an intimate experience, and one where we're sharing the joy of Tolkien's work. So please, I hope you'll take advantage of that. Okay. So let's see. So Karen, we talked about Karen and having some anxiety about communication with the third house, Pluto and South Node. Karen says, we have two Karens. So we have New Zealand Karen, and then we have Cleveland Karen. So New Zealand Karen has a third house, Virgo placement. Cleveland Karen, there's so many Karens today, and I mean that with total love. I know that name has started to take on a negative connotation, but not because of the Karens that we have here today. We've got the beautiful side of Karens are here today. Karen says, my mom and dad were both intense in different ways. Thanks for your vulnerability, Spencer. Makes me feel less cuckoo. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I'll do my best. Isn't that terrible when like names become like a negative like slur for something, like somebody's actual name? Can you imagine if like Spencer's like, I'm always imagining if like, oh, that guy's such a Spencer. You know, that would be so annoying. So you Karens are strong for being able to weather common vernacular becoming almost a negative connotation, and showing us that there are good Karens out there. Jolie James is here. What's up, Jolie James? Nice to see you, friend. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping in and letting us know that you're with us here today. Lauren says, Stephen, I like where you're heading and doing where you are headed, doing your own school. Exciting. Many are going their own way with their own energy, purifying that Aquarian water to the earth realm. Yeah, this is a really interesting manifestation of the air age, the decentralization. You could even go so far as to say that might be a manifestation of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius in particular, because much of Aquarius's symbolism is about releasing attachment to centralized power and going off on the fringe and doing things from a place of freedom. So it's a really great example of that. Let's see. Casey says, I'm a new astrologer working with Adam through the donation-based clinic. I teach yoga and work part-time at a juice bar. I do a lot around the house and live with my partner. Nice. Since I'm healing, I can't work and have been self-obligated to work hard since moving in with my partner, and she makes more than me, so I'm just learning through the process what I really need for me. You know, that is a uh, that is a really important journey that many of us are going through, Casey, is kind of just understanding ourselves enough to know what we need, to release our previous expectations that maybe we had for ourselves, or that society may have had for us, and just come into alignment with who we really are, and through the lens of acceptance and self-love. So it sounds like you're on a really important journey, friend. And I wish you luck with your donation-based readings and your yoga work, and the juice bar. It's always nice to kind of have a balance between the metaphysical, the physical, and and otherwise, right? Yeah, exactly. Um, Candy Corn says, I'm exhausted. You know, I think many of us are. I have been saying on the channel, though, friends, that we need to understand the times that we're going through right now are will require marathon energy rather than sprinting energy, I think. Uh, it's hard when it feels like issues are coming at us so quickly. We feel like we have to respond to every single thing that's happening, every single crisis. But I've heard some really good advice recently about picking 2 or 3 things that are really important to you and putting your focus and energy, and possibly resistance towards those issues. And then kind of, being able to take a break every once in a while. Because part of I will say this, I think part of the challenges of living within a world that is seeing a frightening turn towards authoritarianism is that much of it is designed towards exhausting us so that we just cave in, you know? So how can we maintain our strength through perseverance and through pacing ourselves so that we don't have to capitulate to powers that might not have our best interest in mind? Candy Corn says, I feel like soup. Maybe this is part of the Neptune transit, right? I think that's part of it. Casey says, I'm on the tail end of my Saturn return, although is at 5 degrees in Pisces. I'm still learning what it's offering me over this period in relationship. Yeah. Casey, so that Saturn return in Pisces, so your Saturn return is at 5 degrees? Okay. So Saturn in Pisces, Saturn return, it's in your 5th house. Maybe this slowing down process, Casey, is helping you to come into alignment with your own creative process, right? I would say the first decan of Pisces is it's a decan called the Labyrinth, and the Labyrinth, it speaks towards leaving behind a material success in search of a higher purpose, a higher meaning, in search of what feels like home. There's a siren song that happens within that decan where it says, hey, you're being called home, whatever that home is. And that home is an internal space. It's not an external one. So Saturn is actually the ruler of that face. So that is Saturn in its own decan. So the key with this is being able to come to terms with repetitive narrative loops, like getting lost in a maze, like the maze of the Minotaur, to be able to find our true center and our true authentic self. How do we dismantle some of the old narratives in our lives that are maybe keeping us unhappy? Are there narratives that we want to concretize? Are there dreams that we had that we want to make real? That's also a Saturn and Pisces signification. So how can you make a creative process real while at the same time dismantling the circular narrative loops that may be keeping you in exile from those dreams? I often find that having Ariadne's thread can be very helpful with folks that have prominent placements in this deck. And Ariadne was the princess that helped the hero Theseus get to the center of the maze without getting lost in his quest to overcome the Minotaur, the beast that he had to conquer. And sometimes we just need something that helps keep us grounded, that helps keep us on path, whatever it is. For me, a lot of it is astrology. A lot of it is myth. This is another reason, Casey, I'm really excited about the Lord of the Rings. I feel like this time period that we're going through has a lot of significations and similarities to what Frodo and Sam, Legolas and Gimli and Gandalf and Merry and Pippin and Elrond, all of these things that people that are going through this, confrontation with a very difficult time period, oppressive power, and getting to see them deal with those challenges and understand how they crafted their relationship and how they found strength within difficult times. That to me is my Ariadne's thread right now. And that's part of the reason that have been I've been so fixated on this, and almost to a stubborn degree, even in the course of some hurdles that I've had to overcome with it, is because that to me is going to be a grounding force for the next year, and so on and forward. Being able to connect with that friendship and camaraderie and fellowship and perseverance that those characters have is going to help keep me grounded so that I can find that center and home. And I hope you're able to find that as well, friend. Okay, let's see here. Wow, amazing comments today, friends. I'm really enjoying this. Thank you so much for being here and spending your rainy Friday afternoon with me. Well, I have a rainy Friday afternoon. I don't know what it's like where you're at, but it feels like just the vibe today with the rainy Pisces, Neptune, North Node, right? Okay. Susanna says, I'm having an ideal Venus-Neptune node moment tomorrow. I'm having an art exhibition opening, and me and my husband have a gig there. The art cafe used to belong to my sister, and Pisces is in my third house. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. If anybody embodied Venus, Neptune, North Node, it would be Susanna. Susanna is a polymath, if you will, of talent who makes beautiful art, is an incredible singer and musician. And I'm just really excited that you're having an exhibition with exalted Venus at the maximum degree of its exaltation. So I think it's going to be a transcendent experience for you, Susanna. And I wish you all the luck, and I hope that you're able to, connect with people and have your art connect with people and move them as I know that it will. Susanna infuses a lot of mythological themes and symbolic themes within her art, and it's both, I would say it's both challenging, like as far as making you think, but also comforting, if that makes sense. She's a Cancer sun, and there's a comfort to it. It's like being hugged by the divine. That's how I feel when I look at Susanna's art. Like it's like spirit is giving me a hug. So congratulations on your exhibition. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to go back in time here. And let's see. So Lauren says, I think us Leos are the least red of the fire signs. Aries nearly always wears red. Sagittarius, pretty red. Leo's just a touch. I hardly ever wear it either. Yeah. I would say Leo is more like the yellow, like yellow and orange. Orange can be mercurial too, but as a Leo rising, I feel okay in pale yellow. Not like I don't feel comfortable in any super bright saturated color. And maybe that's just the self-preservation of Cancer sun. I think that a lot of Cancerian friends that I've talked to, we don't want to stand out. We're like prey animals, so we want to blend in a little bit. Like I really like muted colors, but muted yellows I really enjoyed wearing. I just haven't had a lot of those in my wardrobe recently, but I think maybe it might be time to embrace that again. Rachel says, Mercury was stationing retrograde on my birthday. I love patterns, but sometimes patterns are too asymmetrical and wild. Sometimes patterns are too asymmetrical and wild, or are too stimulating for me to wear. Interesting. So Mercury is is a planet that is also associated with like patterns like plaids and like really crazy designs and something like that. So uh, maybe that's the like in your birth chart. Maybe that's what you're feeling within that. So yeah, there are all sorts of things that we feel like overstimulation with. I think dressing for our chart is that would be a really interesting talk. Fashion talk. Susanna says, I really love black and all the colors of water and forest. I'm also a little bit scared of red. Right, right. Susanna is a Capricorn rising, though, right? Like, my partner is a Capricorn rising, and she loves black. It's like I've had to almost like beg her to wear colors. Like, I finally gotten Sagittarian Tanya to wear more purple, and she looks really good in purple because she's a Sag sun. But her default is always the color black. But yeah, that to me, that's a very Saturnian thing. That is like, hey, it's that Saturn was considered the absence of light. So having black associated with Saturn is interesting. And even when it's Saturday, I can't even wear like actual black. Sometimes I just wear gray. It's my compromise, which is almost kind of lunar on some level. Tarya's here. What's up, Moy? Tarya Moy says Mars is only planted with dignity, and I can wear red. See, there you go. Right? Exactly. Right? Exactly. So you have a positive relationship with Mars, and you feel attracted to that color. So again, we talk about this in the Dignity and Devotion series too, like what types of colors to put on our altar, what types of clothing to wear to be able to perpetuate the deity, to display devotion to the deity. So a lot of times, if you're doing a Mars ritual, dressing in red, dressing like a warrior is appropriate. Just like if you're dressing for Saturn, it's very different. It's like black, etc. And Venus, greens and pinks and whites, etc. Susanna says, my daughter has Mars and Aries in the 10th, and she loves red. See, here we're getting confirmation at this color theory. Lauren, you started us on a whole journey of color today. Steven says, I have natal Mars and Aries in the 5th, Moon and Sag, trine Mars, exact Chiron has not helped until after my Chiron return. So, Steven, do you wear red? Like, since you have Mars and Aries and potentially a positive relationship to it? You'll have to confirm that for us. Lauren says, I'm wearing purple a lot lately because Jupiter is in Aquarius natally. Kind of my friendly wave to anyone needing some navigation at the moment. Magnetize me. I'll give you a helping hand. Yeah, like Jupiter, Zeus is purple, right? That's the royal purple of Zeus, aka Jupiter. Aquarius, I mean, I would venture to say that many Aquarians probably wear black because of Saturn, it being Saturn influenced. In my brain, I associate Aquarius with like light blue for whatever reason. I think it's because I see Aquarius as like the sky, like so for me, I always visualize light blue for Aquarius, but I would say that black would be equally as appropriate for that sign as well. All right. New Zealand Karen says, wow, thank you, Spencer. I appreciate your insights into the third house ruler being the moon. Yeah, the joy of the moon, right? The joy of the moon is the third house. And it's Virgo in the Thema Mundi. So since you're a Cancer rising, which is the same rising sign as the Thema Mundi, you may have an experience that is similar to what the ancients would prescribe for each house. One other thing to think about, Karen, and you can find more information on this in the Decans of Virgo webinar if you want a longer explanation, but Virgo as the third house also talked about a lot of themes of the Oracle of Delphi and being able to channel messages from spirit like the Oracle of Delphi would. And then also teaching divine law. There's a spirit associated with one of the Decans of Virgo called Themis. And Themis was like the goddess that came to help teach human beings about the rules of incarnation. So this is why Virgo often says this, like, obsession with the rules is saying, hey, understanding the limits of being incarnated into a body. Whereas Pisces is more about the limitlessness of that. What can you visualize? You know, a Virgo will say, well, that's not possible because you have to do this, 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 and this, right? That's useful because there are actual limitations about being manifested. There is the working within time, space, and with limited resources. So understanding how to craft with those resources while infusing it with essence and vision that Pisces can be as a balancing force. To me, every zodiac sign has a role and a purpose to play. One is no better than the other. If you hear a pop astrologer telling you this sign is bad or this whatever, no, that's garbage. Every sign, every placement, every season has a role, has a positive side and a negative side. Even you, Geminis. Like this, but Gemini takes a lot of crap in the pop astrology world. One thing I will say about Gemini, it's the 12th house in the thema mundi. It is a repository of, like, maybe our fears, of our projections, etc. That was a really light bulb moment for me with just understanding Geminis. Some of the indecision that we might feel is related to that, the myth of right? The choice of the deceased Roman soldier that is witnessing people choosing lots and choosing a life to reincarnate into. And then the understanding of all the pros and cons of that can lead to indecision or a challenging feeling of being non-committal. So that opened my eyes with Gemini a little bit, but every sign has its advantages. For Gemini, it's the exploratory spirit, the pollinating spirit, being able to visit all these flowers to collect pollen, to be able to bring back information, to eventually, make something beautiful from it, like honey back at the hive in the transition from Gemini to Cancer. All right, take care, Lauren. Nice to see you here, friend. Winter says, I like wearing earthy and fall colors, jewel colors, black. My wardrobe is across the board, always evolving. Maybe my Pisces moon? That could be, right? There's a lot of associations with rainbows in Pisces, especially in the tarot cards of Pisces. I also enjoy incorporating feng shui colors in my home. Cancer rising. Oh, nice. I like that. Yeah, I just, I've been boxing up old books to make some space for, I wish I could share a picture of my new Lord of the Rings collection. I bought like 30 Tolkien books over the last few months. I had to clear out space for them on the shelf, and I was looking through old books, many of which were this woman Lillian Tu, which was a feng shui author from, I don't know, the early 2000s, and being able to incorporate different elements within the different parts of the home, it just feels right, Like this, I believe this part of the house that I do my live streams in is the helpful people part of the house. And I feel like when we do these things, we're helping each other and things of that nature. And yeah, it's a really, really awesome practice to be able to do, is to feel the chi or the energy circulating in positive ways within your home. I think the main thing I've learned from feng shui is the first step to doing anything in a feng shui treatment is to clear out the clutter. Like you can't add anything in that's going to be helpful if you've just got stacks of clutter everywhere. That alone can just help change your life in a myriad of ways. Steven says, sending love to all the Karens of the world. Yeah, right? Absolutely. Sorry, I'm a little behind here. We got so many amazing comments today that we're going to be circling back in loops of comments here today. Karen says, haha, too many Karens. I'm so sad they picked our beautiful name to malign. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when we get singled out like that, Steven says, I also have Jupiter in Scorpio, Saturn in Taurus opposition. It has been rough. I'm sorry to hear that Stephen. I know that opposition can probably be quite challenging, and especially with Pluto starting to square that from Aquarius. I guess hang in there, especially when Mars moves into Leo, because there's going to be a Mars-Leo opposition in the months ahead that will activate a big T-square between those two planets. But they are in cadent houses. Oftentimes, the secret benefit of having cadent transits like you might have coming up with the Mars-Pluto opposition is that it doesn't necessarily always affect us as personally as it might if they were in angular houses. It may be through other people that were experiencing some of those difficulties or one step removed. So that's something to maybe take solace in. Kate from Kate plus 8, the first Karen of our time. That's funny. Hannah says, resisting authoritarianism means we cannot lose our sense of self in an overly chaotic, phantasmic world, which can be challenging with Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces influence. I agree, Hannah. Hannah and I talk a lot. Like, Hannah's a good friend of mine, and we've been kind of consoling one another as far as trying to figure out how do we maintain our sanity when all of this noise is happening. And I think you're right. Like, being able to stay grounded, to pace ourselves, to find joy in real joy, that is almost a rebellious act in and of itself. Because when we surrender to the fear that is created by chaotic authoritarianism, that's when they've won, right? And the Saturn Neptune part, yeah, it's just magnifying all of that right now. But little moments like this, where we're just sharing our lives with one another, sharing our perspectives, having conversations that are, about things that we love and things that we care about, that to me is the ultimate act of resistance. Karen says, Stephen, we share too many of the same generational aspects. Time twins. That Saturn-Jupiter opposition is a doozy. Yeah, it is, I would imagine. I don't have that in my chart. I have a Jupiter, I have a co-presence with Saturn and Mars. So that's not great either, I will say. In Hellenistic astrology, Jupiter's kind of being harmed by those two planets. Jupiter's trying to help them, but in my chart, Jupiter is in exile, so it's not a super strong Jupiter. Casey says, thank you for the Saturnian insight, Spencer. I'm grateful. I've never taken to the Lord of the Rings story in completely, so I may have to see what it shows me. Well, Casey, it would be awesome if you'd join us, friend. We have an awesome community. We're going to have a Discord group for discussion. We're going to be meeting on Zoom every second and fourth Monday. And we're just going to be taking our time. We're going to go through it slow. We're going to unpack all the themes. We're going to dive into the very, very rich, detailed world of Middle Earth. We're going to try to connect that with our lived lives and stories. We're just going to nerd out on it. And it's going to be so much fun. Like, we had an awesome, awesome group with The Hobbit. And it was a blast. It was just a blast. So you are more than welcome, friend. If it's something that interests you, send me a message. We'll figure out how to help you participate if you have any obstacles to that. Steven says, I worked my Saturn in Taurus in the 6th really hard. No one took notice. I had to change tactics. I mean, I don't know if you need to change tactics, Steven. This is one of the things that's the essence of the 6th house, bud. It's the work that you do that you might not get credit for. It may actually be part of the dharma of that. What I tell my beautiful 6th house stellium daughter is, it's the journey. It's not the accolades. It's not the validation from other people that matters. It's looking yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and knowing that you did a good job or did your best, and appreciating the learning that came through the journey. So maybe that will help shift a perspective with that. Winter says, it's raining in Jersey here too. Maybe it's just a big, wide weather stream that's happening across the country right now. A little warm spell, but with some moisture. Rachel says, congrats, Susanna. Yes, thank you, friends. It's going to be super fun. Steven says, raining on the East Coast and West Coast and Michigan area. So it's just a rainy Friday afternoon. That's awesome. Well, it's a great day to stay inside and talk some astrology, right? All right. Uh, Scott. Steven's wearing purple and red, right? He's Steven the Jupiterian, right? He's got Mars in Aries and a Sag rising. That makes sense. Uh, this here you go. Heidi said, JP, how you doing? Says good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Great conversation as I'm waking up. I am a Capricorn Sun, Aquarius Moon, Pisces rising. I'm learning about astrology. It's fascinating. Cheers, Heidi. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for being here today. So Pisces risings are having some interesting times, right? If we were just looking at our chart, we'll put Pisces back in the ascendant. This is just a random Pisces rising chart, right? So Heidi, you've got the first house is lit up in your chart right now with the moon, Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node, just lots of changes potentially, but also Pisces risings right now are having to ascertain which of their dreams are worth pursuing, which ones need to be let go of, which internal narratives that shape our personal mythologies are helping us, and which ones might need to be let go of. So that could be something you're going through. You got Pluto hanging out on your moon in the 12th house. Okay, Capricorn Sun hanging out over in the 11th. With Mars opposite it right now. So that's probably some challenges maybe with your own personal vision and your own creative process versus the needs of the group that you might be a authority figure within or have a lot of responsibility for with a Cap Sun in the 11th. So thanks again for being here today. I always love seeing my international friends. We've got a huge faction that comes from Finland. We have our New Zealanders here today, and then we have our Australians coming too. It's just an honor to be able to serve all of you across the world. I love being able to do that very Neptunian ideal of dissolving the borders between us. I actually have Neptune in the 5th house in an exact trine with my ascendant, and those ideals of being able to transcend those barriers between us is something that I hold very dear. So appreciate you being here, friend. Steven says, I love that outlook and perspective, Spencer. I need to remember that. Yeah, in reference to the 6th house and the journey, and one day at a time. Just because we have stuff in our chart that says that we need to learn how to accept things that may be difficult doesn't mean that we're always going to enjoy the process. I think that I'm a 12th house sun and Mercury. There are parts of having a 12th house sun and Mercury that are very, very hard. I think that the visibility sometimes for me has been difficult. Like I'm a bit of a hermit. I'm a bit of a recluse, and parts of that are in alignment with my nature. Other parts of it can be painful sometimes. Other parts of it can be lonely. One of the things I love about these book clubs is I consider the students in those clubs my friends, and we build a relationship over time. And it's not only is it learning and sharing together, but we're building real friendships. And I just feel so blessed for those communities. So sometimes there are silver linings, even when we have placements in these quote unquote challenging houses like the 6th or the 12th. Some might argue the 8th house. Any ones that have difficult aspecting the ascendant. Traditional astrology said that sometimes we have mixed blessings within them. All right, let's see. What else? Let me know if you have any more questions, friends. Let's do me a huge favor while we have a little break in the chat here. We might go a few minutes longer here, maybe 20 more minutes or so. Do me a huge favor. If you're enjoying the broadcast today, or if you could just support the channel, please like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't done so. That's a great way to keep in touch with your friendly content producers like myself on YouTube, Instagram, etc. It's a great way if you're kind of starting to feel like the strong arm of our technocratic overlords. It's a great way to support your content creators that are outside of a large corporate structure. Because as we saw with our friends at TikTok, a platform where you've built up an audience can be taken away at any point. It can just be kind of snatched away and disappear. So to be able to stay connected with your favorite content connectors and creators and your communities, signing up for people's email lists, like, so that you have that personal relationship with them, can be really important to sustain that relationship over time. And then we're not beholden to these platforms. We're just, creating connection with one another. All right. So I promised you all a little bit of just an unfolding here. Let's take a look at just the next couple days, how it's going to unfold. So we just saw Uranus station direct on the 30th. We have our beautiful Venus conjunct Neptune / North Node tomorrow, February the 1st. And I went into depth on all of these in the astrology of February. On the 3rd, we have Mercury trine Jupiter retrograde. So we'll kind of unfold it here as we go. So you got Mercury trining Jupiter retrograde. So fruitful conversations, fruitful communications potentially, especially between the fringe and the center, the liminal spaces in our life. Those all can be a really good experience. Mercury is the ruler of the second decan of Aquarius, so this is Mercury is becoming empowered in that second decan. So having conversations to help find innovative solutions to challenges is a part of that as well. So I'm looking forward to that aspect. That's a really good one. Heidi says, that's why I find all this astrology really makes sense to me. I'm weighing things up in my life and where I'm going. What isn't feeling right for me right now? Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Oh, thanks, Heidi. Again, really appreciate that you're here today, friend. Okay. So after we have the Mercury-Jupiter trine, we have a big day on February the 4th. So mark your calendars for February 4th, because Jupiter's stationing direct at 11 degrees of Gemini, and Venus is going to move into Aries. Now, Venus is going to lose some dignity. So the beautiful moment that you have this weekend, enjoy it. Like a rainbow, like the rainbow in the 10 of Cups, excuse me. That's the tarot card associated with Pisces 3. I'll pull it out just so you can see it here. So here is Pisces 3, the 10 of Cups, this beautiful ephemeral moment. But like rainbows, it's temporary. It is an ephemeral moment, which doesn't mean that it's not real. It just means that it's something to enjoy without becoming attached to it. If we became attached to the rainbow, if we became attached to that ephemeral moment, we would have even more sadness when it starts to fade. So what I would suggest over the course of this weekend is enjoy that beautiful Venus, Neptune, North Node, exalted moment, but don't build your life or attachments around it, because Venus is about to shift signs into her exile, right? Into her exile. Now, Karen is saying, Jupiter direct, amen, rejoice, right? Well, for you Sagittarius risings, that probably is going to be a pretty gloriful. That's not what I was going to say. Glorfindel? Sorry, I've got too much Lord of the Rings on the brain. That was what I was trying to say. A glorious moment, because it's the ruler of your ascendant. And it may feel like you've been stuck in the indecision kind of path with I was going to say stuck in the mud, but it would be more about being stuck in indecisiveness. And maybe it's you'll find the right path to move forward with that, right? Absolutely. So a really important day, February the 4th. But Venus is going to move into a sign that it tends to be impulsive around. Okay, so if you have something that you love, or that you're thinking about purchasing or something like that, just be careful, think it through a little bit, because Venus is going to be moving into a sign that says, I want this, and I'm going to ask questions later. Then that brings us to our first quarter moon on the 5th. Okay, so this is a first quarter moon, and we'll go back a few hours so that we can see just the square between the sun and the moon. So here is around 16 degrees of Taurus and 16 degrees of Aquarius. This is a first quarter moon, which is a sort of a challenge in bringing something into manifestation. And the second decan of Taurus, this is right around my moon's at 15 Taurus. So I'm familiar with this territory. This moon is very powerful. It's exalted, it's in its own face. It has a lot of dignity. Um, but the challenge there is to find the right rhythm, the right routine, the right balance between work and play. And I'll tell you from experience that I've had times where I've been just inundated with work and workaholism, and I've had times where I've swung in the opposite direction, where I've kind of just been playing all the time and I need to get back to work. And as I've matured and that moon potentially has matured, I think I'm starting to find the right balance between that. I know that for me, having a routine is really important. Having a morning routine where I set all my things up, I set my journal up, I set my shake up. I make a protein shake every morning that has all sorts of good superfoods in it. And I set up my altar space. I do a ritual every morning, a prayer every morning for about 45 minutes. And then I journal, drink my shake, and get dressed, and then I'm stretch, and if I do some exercises, I'm ready for the day. And it takes me a while, but I know that that's what I need to get my mind right and get my headspace right. I'm fortunate to be able to take my time with it because I set my own schedule. So how can you find the right routines and rhythms to help you move from point A to point B, which is what the sun in Aquarius 2 is encouraging us to do, is how do we move from one shore to another? How do we move from one situation to another, a new beginning, right? And I think part of it is through organizing your routine, examining and taking a time audit. That's what I've been doing in the last few weeks, is auditing my time and seeing what I'm really doing with my time, and then being extra intentional about what I'm going to do with my time, to the point where I'm scheduling every task that I have. And you know what that has done? That's helped me get things done so much more efficiently that I actually have more free time because I've scheduled the time in advance. And it's allowed me to be more flexible, okay? More flexible. Like I'm able to do chores that come up, or do conversations that come up that I wouldn't normally be able to have. Like a lot of times I like talking to my friends on the phone. I have a couple really good friends. I have the one friend I was referring to earlier today when we were talking about Sam and Frodo. He's an Aries sun, and he's got a bunch of Gemini stuff. So he and I talk for a long period of time. And I know that when I chat with him, it's going to be a long talk. It's going to be a good talk. But there were times where I wouldn't be able to talk for that long because my time was not organized. But being able to organize and be intentional with your time leaves space so that when you want to have those conversations, you can, you know? I think that that's one of the beautiful paradoxes of not only astrology axes, but just life itself, is that sometimes when you add more of an element in, it actually helps create the opposite element. If you add more structure into your life, it actually creates more freedom. So that might be what we're dealing with this first quarter moon, is how do we create the right balance of structure, work, play, resources, giving and receiving, to be able to communicate with people in the center and the fringe. And that leads us to the 9th, which is another big day, which is the Cazimi of Mercury. So here's the Cazimi of Mercury. And then, as Casey was mentioning earlier, the trine of Mars retrograde to Saturn. So those things are happening simultaneously. Here you can see the Mercury Cazimi at 20 degrees of Aquarius, and then 18 degrees of Cancer and Pisces is where the Mars and Saturn trine are going to be. So what realization are you coming to, where there's something where you're just like, I'm just going to take the leap into the unknown? That's what this decan of Aquarius is all about. It's like unraveling that old karmic knot, revisiting something that's frustrating to you, to finally move on, okay? Coming down off of a very strongly held belief, or like a hill that you're trying to defend, and saying, you know what, this isn't worth my energy and effort. Understanding our limitations with Mars trine Saturn, being able to start taking action within the limitation rather than trying to always figure out how to circumvent it. All these things could be up for discussion around this period of time, but a new download, especially for Mercury. And this could have a profound effect not only on the three houses where those planets are stationed, but particularly in the Gemini and Virgo areas of your life as well, because those are the two areas ruled by Mercury. Then we get, after this Mercury Cazimi, okay, we have Mercury and the Sun squaring Uranus, the 10th through the 11th. Now, this Mercury Cazimi is within 3 degrees of the square to Uranus, so this realization that you have might be just like this lightning bolt out of the blue of like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done. And then all of the changes that you need to go through may be a little bit destabilizing as we get to the Sun Mercury squares with Uranus. I would expect during that period of time, I would potentially expect some weather events around then, especially with Uranus in Taurus 3, which is related to humility in the face of nature. So when we have squares with these planets to Uranus, there may be some unexpected weather events. So to be prepared for those things, I guess I would make sure that you just have all of your stuff ready, depending on where you live and what type of weather events visit your area. I know for me, like, we've been reinstalling like smoke detectors that had gone bad and things of that nature. So that could be something to do to prepare yourself in advance so that you're, and this isn't to like make you feel overly anxious about it, but one of the benefits of astrology is seeing when there might be something that could be a surprise if we hadn't anticipated it. And when you have two planets squaring off with Uranus, especially after they've just made a Cazimi moment, making extra space in your schedule and in your time frame to be able to deal with something that comes up, that crops up, especially over the Taurus and Aquarius area of your chart, I think will be important. And that brings us over to the full moon on the 12th, right? So this is the full moon in Leo. And again, this could be another, we're going to do a live stream on this probably next week. And we'll be talking about this in depth. Again, this full moon really is about dismantling that hill that I was talking about, the defensiveness of a certain belief, so that we can move forward and move on. So there may be something that is just unexpected that you didn't expect to have to dismantle this particular thing, especially with the square to Uranus here. But it would behoove you to do so, right? Oftentimes, the conflicts that we come into contact with are through our own stubbornness of hanging on to a belief system or an ideal that just no longer serves us anymore. So that's often what this full moon is about. I'll check back in with you what this means for a fixed rising, because I got Leo on the ascendant at 21 Leo, and this one's always an interesting full moon for a Leo 3 ascendant or just a Leo ascendant, the full moon in Aquarius that generally happens once a year. And then just to finish off here, we've got a couple planets moving into Pisces. So on the 14th, Valentine's Day, we have Mercury moving into Pisces, okay? Non-linear thinking. This is Mercury moving into its fall and into its exile at the same time. It's doubly detrimented. Good for poetry, good for creative communication, good for symbolism, mythology, writing, etc. Not so great for detailed linear thinking. I would highly suggest, if you haven't done your taxes yet, probably trying to do it before Mercury moves into Pisces. I know that this is early, but you might save yourself a real headache and mistakes, potentially. The sun moves into Pisces on the 18th. So again, this is another shift. And then that gives us a big stellium in Pisces now, right? Another one, like the sun, Mercury, Saturn, instead of, Venus hanging out there. I think when the sun moves into Pisces, we often are questioning meaning in life. Pisces season is a great time to understand the stories that we tell about who we are, what our relationships are like, what supports us and what doesn't, and question them and say, are these stories that shape my actions and habits and realities, are they really serving me? Because I think that they're fluid around this period of time. I think that just like the winter thaw, we can start to dissolve crystallized beliefs that don't serve us so that we can have fertile ground for new beliefs that we can create from. So I think that towards the end of the month here, starting to dissolve any crystallized belief system that is maybe limiting us might be a really useful way to go about Pisces season. All right, friends. That's what I've got. Let's see. I'll check in with the chat here. Gnarly. Oh, yay, glorious. All right. I do have an I Ching for you for Aquarius season, and I have an animal for you. And it's honestly, it's been one that we've seen in the recent past here, so it's curious to see some of the repetition of these. So, the I Ching that I got for you, friends, for Aquarius season, I asked the I Ching, what is the nature, the essence of Aquarius season in 2025? And I got the hexagram number 42, which translates to increase. And it's changing to hexagram 62, which translates to small accumulation, taking care of the details, the little things, okay? So here we have 42, increase, benefit, harvest, enrichment, generosity, sharing your bounty, okay? This hexagram describes a fortunate time when things are going well, people are looking out for each other, cooperation that leads to success, and being able to pay attention to fundamentals versus surface appearances. So Jack Balkin, in his beautiful book, The Laws of Change, he says, when a choice has to be made between making outward aspects of a thing more impressive or strengthening foundations, people choose the latter without hesitation, and they are right to do so. But these good times might not last forever. Therefore, it is up to you to capitalize on them. First, you must decide what your priorities are. The text says that if you want to benefit from the time, you have to have somewhere to go. If you dither and hesitate between your various projects or try to do too many things at once, you will squander your opportunities. So this is telling us to focus, right? This is maybe the Jupiter stationing direct. There's two changing lines. The second changing line says, someone increases him like 10 pairs of tortoise shells. It cannot be opposed. Constant perseverance brings good fortune. The king makes an offering to the supreme deity, good fortune. He goes on to say tortoise shells were both a form of currency and a method of divination. The text explains that your good fortune stems from upright and proper conduct. Good luck is the residue of design. Increase comes because you set in place the conditions for success, so that you are able to maximize your advantages when opportunities arise and things break your way. Cultivate good habits of mind and behavior. Choose worthwhile projects and open yourself up to beneficial influences. Then good fortune will follow your endeavors as if success were foreordained. The same advice applies to your relationships with other people. Always remember to be modest and generous. This will attract others to you and help sustain your good fortune. Never forget that your success depends on serving the interest of others as well as yourself. And then there's a changing line in the third line. It says, enriched through unfortunate events, no blame. If one is sincere and walks the central path, one reports with a jade tablet to the Duke. Jack Balkin says, a jade tablet was used by messengers and officials. It is the mark of authority and symbolizes sincerity and trust. To walk in the central path means to behave with modesty and act in a principled fashion. The situation seems unfortunate, but in fact things will actually turn out to your advantage. The most important thing now is to maintain your principles and be especially careful about doing the right thing. People will appreciate your steadfastness and integrity in difficult times. Your presence of mind will give you authority and influence that others will respect. Because your conduct is blameless, no one will reproach you when you succeed and others do not. By holding fast to what is right and riding through the difficult times, you will strengthen your character, develop new skills, and gain a valuable experience for the future. I love that. Taking the middle path, pacing ourselves. All of these things are really good advice from the I Ching. during a time of upheaval. And then that hexagram number 9, small accumulation, also translates to restraint of the powerful by the weak, small farming, taking care of the little things, accumulation of small advantages, using gentleness and friendly persuasion, temporarily held back, but rain will come. Right? So this is kind of like the dense clouds, no rain, but we feel all the elements that could come together for a successful outcome. It doesn't mean that the situation is unfavorable. It just means that we need to keep doing all of the details that will bring us to success, even when we feel like we haven't gotten that release yet. So preparation is a really important time concept in the I Ching, preparation, because not every moment is one to just run towards the goal. Sometimes you have to prepare, sometimes you have to wait, sometimes you have to communicate. All of these things are some of the physical incarnation rules that we were talking about when we were talking about Virgo. Okay? And I think that even dreams have a process to them sometimes. Sometimes we have to create space in our life to be able to hear the voice of the divine through our dreams. And if we have too much noise going on, that can't be, we can't hear it. So embrace those times where you feel like the weight of accumulating clouds, because it might just be the time before a breakthrough, right? And that's it sounds like what we're experiencing here on some level. Steven says, thank you, Spencer. I will not let my inner pessimist come out. Sagittarian optimism will overcome. I love that, Steven. I love it. That's what we need from our Sagittarian friends, some healthy optimism. Susanna says, the picture on the screen says the hexagram changes from 42 to 9, not 62. Did I write 62 on there? You are right. I think 42. Yes, never mind. Here we go. I just wrote the wrong hexagram. Good catch. Yeah, 9 is still a small accumulation. Thank you for catching that detail. We have yet another Pisces Neptune moment today. We've had a few of those today, but there you go. 42 changing to 9, small accumulation. Thank you for catching that. All right, friends, the animal I got for you today, got the eagle. The eagle feels very Aquarian. I feel like we got this very recently in the recent past as well. It is interesting because Aquarius has a fixed star in it called Altair at 2 degrees of Aquarius, which is related to the eagle or the vulture of Zeus, who was able to be the carrier of his thunderbolts. And eagles are an animal that help us to rise above our mundane concerns and see things from a greater vantage point. I think that this is also true of Aquarius at its best, is being able to take that detached 30,000-foot view and see how everything is connected, to get out of our own way and out of our own subjective experiences and be able to see how we are connected to others and this beautiful system. And Susanna is making out a great point here. The eagles of Middle Earth have arrived. I wanted to also say that eagles are a symbol in Middle Earth of what Tolkien coined as the eucatastrophe, the good catastrophe, okay? The moment where great despair is rescued by something good. And maybe that's what we're going to see moving forward with this eagle symbolism, is maybe things look bleak right now. We've had a lot of hits. We've dealt with a lot of news. Our hope may be struggling, but maybe like the eagles of Middle Earth, we will see something that comes together. And maybe it's not as dramatic as the eagle. Let me offer a different perspective. Maybe there is a dramatic event, but maybe the true eagles of our time, rather than just being rescued by the eagles of Middle Earth, is our relationships, our everyday relationships with one another, the community that we build with one another, the ability to uplift each other in our shared spaces, Our ability to meet hatred and rhetoric with love and understanding and empathy, even if it's not being modeled for us publicly, all of those things can become the eucatastrophe in your own life and for someone who's struggling in your own milieu. Another example of the eucatastrophe, this is something that I really consider a lot when I've been doing my garden. In a wasteland of manicured lawns that are just turf grass and Roundup and glyphosate, the radical act of planting native pollinator habitats, just even a small island in a quarter of an acre, like this is, we don't have a huge yard, we have a quarter of an acre of a yard. And just that small island of native pollinator plants can be the eucatastrophe, the oasis for the birds, butterflies, insects, animals in your area that may sustain them, you know, where maybe they're going to Mordor. Like, I don't know, like, but you are this beautiful Rivendell in this oasis, the last homely home of Elrond, you know, by planting this. And if we have more of those that start to happen, that's when we have habitat restoration. So little acts of kindness like that can make a huge difference, even to the point of saving a species. Planting more milkweed in your yard, for example, can be the eucatastrophe for the monarchs in your area. Those butterflies could potentially go extinct if they don't have those plants. But by you taking that small action, small accumulation, as hexagram number 9 was talking about, you may be making all the difference in the world. And there's so many different examples of this. But I think the eagle teaches us to fly high, to see things from a universal perspective, and to try to, if we're talking in the language of Tolkien, be the change that we want to see. One small step at a time, right? And not get bogged down in the muck. All right, friends. That is what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. Casey says, thanks for your time and many insights, Spencer. Thank you, Casey. Maybe we'll see you in book club, friend. Reach out if you have any questions. Heidi says, thank you, Spencer. Are you on the same time each week? This has been great. This makes sense for my Aquarius stellium. No worries about interrupting. There's no interrupting. This is what the chat's for, friend. We are usually go live around 1 o'clock Eastern time in America, which I believe is -5 GMT, potentially. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. Sometimes we go live at 2 p.m., but during this time of the year, it's usually 1 o'clock. Sometimes I'll shift the planetary hour forward when the time shifts in America, but usually 1 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But that's a good reason to sign up for the email list so you know exactly when we go live. But yes, and it would be great to see you here weekly. We have a lot of regulars that stop in, so it's always nice to see returning folks. So thank you so much for not only your presence today, but your participation. Karen says, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Oh, thank you, Karen. You too, friend. Let's restore dignity to the name Karen, right? Through just you being your most awesome self, right? Susanna, thank you all. Good luck, Susanna, with your art show tomorrow and your musical performance. We're rooting for you. And thank you so much for being a part of our journeys through Middle Earth, friend. And thank you, Stephen, for being here. Enjoy the weekend. Take care, everyone. All right. Heidi says, fantastic. I'll set an alarm and I'll sign up. Thank you. All right, Heidi. We're looking forward to seeing you next week as well, friends. So again, friends, do me a huge favor. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the newsletter. You can follow me over at Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Spencer Michaud. You can find me at spencermichaud.com. And then again, we've got that guided group study starting on Saturday, February 10th. Dignity and Devotion, the Sun webinar on February the 8th. And Lord of the Rings book club, a year-long journey with the Lord of the Rings. We're going to take it slow, so no pressure. We're not going to rush through it. It's not going to feel like, oh, we don't have time. No, we're going to go slow, one step at a time. We're going to savor it. And I hope that you'll join me for that. So thanks again, friends, for being here. It's always lovely to join you. And I will see you next week, maybe sooner for some of you, but we'll see you when I see you. And have a great week, and care about all of you, and have a great Venus, Neptune, North Node experience. Just savor that ephemeral moment, and be kind to one another, be kind to yourself, and we'll all get through this together. All right, friends, take care. Peace.